Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Steve Dimmick, author of 47 Mind Hacks for Writers. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be here.
Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, to me, that's just there's no alternative. There's only one possible answer, and that's got to be you have to know your audience. Straight up. The better you know the audience, the more successful you're going to be. The more well-received your book will be, and the easier it will be to market it and find your ideal readers for that topic.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
The launch, really. I mean, getting published, if you're talking about like getting published with a publishing company, hybrid or full traditional publishing company, one of the things that's going to influence them to work with you the most is, well, how big of a platform do you have? How many email subscribers, how many followers do you have on social media? They're going to want to know those types of numbers. If you're self-publishing like my wife and I did, then like I said for the first question, there's one thing that trumps the size of your platform, and that is how well you know your audience. We launched our book, 47 Mind Hacks for Writers. We had 7 people on our list. We had 0 platform. And we still went on to have 1,000 sales in the first 30 days. So it's totally doable if you know who your market is, what they're struggling with, what the problem they're trying to solve is, and where to find them.
Absolutely. And I'm going to actually touch up the follow-up question with that too as we transition to our marketing. And that is, if I remember correctly too, you guys were very active on Facebook and in the author groups, because that's actually how I connected with you and with your wife was y'all's postings in some of the author groups and as you guys shared your journey.
Yeah. I mean, it was critical to us. I mean, that's where we started asking questions. That's where we started looking at, well, what are the other authors asking about? What are they stuck with? Especially the writing groups, because that's our book is all about how to write quicker, how to write better, and how to get through that process without getting stuck. And whatever your topic is for your book, there's going to be groups on Facebook. Someplace on the web, there's going to be a collection of people that have the topic that they're discussing about your topic for your book. Go find them, start engaging with them, and figure out what they're struggling with and what questions they're asking. Because for us, those questions became the key titles of our chapters.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Okay. I think probably 2 come to mind. Launch team. If you don't know what a launch team is, you need to figure that out, because the launch team is critical to your success. And getting people that, what you've already described, that you got introduced to us when we were engaging with people on Facebook and these various author groups. That is a great way to start. It's a great place to start, because you will find people that like what you're doing. They want to know about your project. They want to know why you're writing it. And you have the potential to build a really strong base of not only launch team potential members, but people that are engaged and want to see you succeed. And those are the ideal types that you want for your launch team. Now, the second part of what came to mind immediately was influencers. Who can you reach out to? Who can you connect to that is already in the top, in the market that your book is the topic about? who is it that you can connect to? And if you think that you can't connect to them, well, there's other ways to do it. You can interview them for your book. You can contact them. You say, I'm asking this question of 100 people, and I'd love to get your input on this question. And then you can take that data and summarize it in your book. You can quote the people that are the influencers. You get that connection with them, and they say, most people are going to want to be, hey, you think I'm really cool and you want to put me in your book? Cool, I'll do that. I'll give you 15 minutes of my time. And you'd be surprised how easy that is once you start asking. Because we were like, why would they talk to us? And they did talk to us, and then they wanted, when we asked them, say, well, would you write the foreword for a book, or would you participate in this other event? For us, it was an online summit, but would you participate in that? And you more likely are going to get a yes if they've already heard about you because you've approached them for something quick and easy.
Well, and that was another thing I wanted to touch on, because I was actually part of the online summit, and what I'd like for you to do is to share with our listeners exactly how does that work and what is the process, because I was really impressed with how well organized the summit was. And I remember you were doing a lot of the web design and a lot of things that were going on the back end of that. So I'd really love for you to share that with our audience.
Okay. Well, obviously, as you may have guessed, that my wife and I, Karen, we're a writing team, so we write together. So for the summit, she did all the interviewing. She did all the organizing. She's great at organizing. Lucky me. So she did all of that side, and I did all the back end. I did all the technical stuff, making it work and facilitate the whole process of the summit operating. So together we were a great team with that, and you need both of those parts. You need someone on the technical side, but you also need to organize your summit. And we didn't just jump into it with like, okay, well, let's see if this works, and we'll just jump and see where we land. We didn't do that. We looked into summits. We studied how to run a summit. We looked at successful summits. We looked at things like, well, if I'm an attendee, what didn't I like about that summit? And that led us down the path of Karen saying, you know what, we're going to do the A to Z of book marketing, and we get one author per one expert per topic. We don't want duplicate topics from different people. That's just going to confuse the audience. So that's what we decided to do, and that's how we organized our entire summit. Our book launch obviously was right before the summit went on sale. So that was like the impetus to fill our summit, at least for the first part. So it worked very well with the book launch. It was a lot of work, but it worked really well.
What are some of the pieces of advice that you would give for our listeners that are interested in potentially embarking on a project like that? Because it's a ton of work. There are a lot of things that you have to do. If I remember, you were doing a lot of it with WordPress. And just kind of walk us through a little bit about that, because I know it definitely is a ton of work, but if it's done correctly, then it can be very beneficial.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we brought in, that was our initial back end, which went into our coaching program to help authors with the whole writing process. And so our book that we launched with, basically no list, we got massive sales. We were like #1 for 4 months on Amazon, which is kind of unheard of for our category, at least, not #1 of all Amazon. But that whole process, it's a lot of upfront work. We pre-recorded all the interviews except for one, I think. So that took the pressure off on the actual launch of the summit, and we got the audios recorded before the book launch, so that we did the audios, we got them finished and transcribed and everything, and then we went right into the book launch. So we didn't have these overlapping too much. So if for someone that's listening that wants to, launch their first book or do their first back end event, whatever that may be, whether it's a summit or a course or a coaching program, it's doable, but you really need to figure out how they relate to each other. Why is someone buying your book and be interested? What are they going to get from your next piece of the funnel that you have to offer them? You have to make that connection for them. So, wherever your book takes them, you've got to say, okay, well, where else do they want to get to once they finish reading my book on this topic? What's going to help them the most? What can they afford? Etc. So there's the whole process of building what we call a book funnel. The book being the ticket into the funnel. So yeah, it's. I'm not sure I answered your question really well.
No,
but
you did.
Okay.
The only thing I'm going to ask about from this point is just the end results. And if you just want to get ballpark, if you're like, nah, that's a little bit too personal, just tell me. It's not going to hurt my feelings. But typically, what is the amount of money that you have to invest in this type of summit? Obviously, we know time's involved, but just ballpark monetary. But then also, what was the benefit? So, if you don't want to give me exact figures, I fully respect that. If you just want to say, hey, it was profitable, I get it. But, there are a lot of people out there that have been curious about that and have approached me as like, hey, how do I coordinate this? I'm like, listen, I've never done a summit. I've taken part in them, but I've never actually coordinated them before. And if I think I sent a couple of those people to you guys, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you did. Okay, so I got a few answers for you.
Okay.
The technical side of preparing for the book launch in conjunction with the summit was definitely a challenge. We built out a custom, like you said, custom WordPress site with a membership component to it to protect the content, and we figured all that out. So it was the first time we had done it in those regards. We do have a strong technical membership site background for over a decade. So, if you don't have a strong technical background, I wouldn't envision doing that. I probably put 3 months of effort into building that platform that we have. Obviously Karen spent probably 4 months prior to the launch of the summit working on the summit pretty much exclusively. However, with all that effort, that the book launch combined with the summit has continued to make us money well into 18 months later. We're still making money from it. Mm-hmm. Well into 5 figures. Obviously you hear of other book launches that blew up and, they get 6 figures and easily within the first 30 days, and that's great, but our book didn't have that type of topic to be that big. Which was fine for us, and we knew going into it that our topic for our book, while it was going to be well received, we knew that it wasn't going to be like the #1 book on Amazon. It just wasn't a big enough topic. For example, one of the things we did with to monetize our summit effort further after the summit closed, I decided, let's do something that no one else has done, and we put a credit system in place. Because the typical summit is like, it's like, I don't know, $47 for the first week or before the summit actually starts, and the price goes up, and by the end of the summit the price might be, I don't know, like $197 for the recordings of the summit. And then after the summit ends, that price usually goes up to like $297 or $497 or something like that. And pretty much on people that do a summit in that pricing model, they don't really ever make any sales from it afterwards. People have gotten the best deal. They're not going to come back to it. So what we did was, first of all, we didn't put the price up too high. And then we put a credit system in place, which is completely custom created. And people could still join the list to get like the intro to the summit. And we would give them a free credit, and then they could log in with their free credit, and they could pick one session from the summit to get for free. And then we had credit packs. Some people don't want to spend $200 for, I think we had 31 sessions in total with the bonus sessions. They don't want to spend $200 to get all 31 sessions because they might only be interested in like maybe 7 or 8. So what we did we put together credit packs where people could buy 1 credit, 3 credits, or 5 credits, and then it doesn't matter. They just buy like 5 credits and they go into the back end. They log in on their account and they unlock whichever session they want to by using one of their credits, kind of like a little token store. So that was really good. However, if we had to do this again, which we are working on another summit, by the way, if we had this to do it again, I wouldn't do it the same way. Now what you have is platforms that exist, like there's one called Hey Summit, which does probably 85% of everything that we did. And it's just built for you.
What's it called again?
Hey Summit.
Hey Summit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a really robust platform. It takes the payment for you. Yeah, it's pretty slick. They've done a really good job on it, and yeah, we're going to be using that for our next summit.
Excellent. Well, Steve, I want to thank you. I know we took a little deep dive into that, but I appreciate it because you are you're episode 307, and you are the first author we've had on the show that has actually created their own author summit. And of course, obviously with the success that you and Karen have had with it, I really wanted you to share some more of that information. So I really appreciate you sharing that value with our listeners.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Now, are you ready for the hard question now?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I always joke around because our hardest question always tends to be about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book? And what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Okay. Whole bunch of fiction books just popped in my head. So yeah, fiction, aside from fiction, sci-fi fantasy, by the way, aside from my sci-fi fantasy reading, well, I guess the one that follows the message that I tend to give people when I work with them is it goes back to knowing your audience, which to me, that can't be anybody else other than Chris Fox with The Right to Market. That book to me is, to me, it epitomizes what a good nonfiction writer has to achieve. I know it's gotten some negative criticisms, but I think those are because people have taken the message that Chris says in that book and taken it a different way, as in like, oh, I can just write about something I have no idea about and just make it, and just kind of do like a scammy, quick, give me all the money kind of book launch, and that's not what we're about. But to me, Chris Fox is talking about writing the market and knowing your audience well enough and knowing exactly what it is they're struggling with in their own words, and then giving them a solution that works. So to me, that epitomizes what we did with our book. So to me, the number one thing I learned from reading that book was you can have the right topic, you can do the research, but there's one extra thing you have to do, and for me, that's positioning. You've got to position your book on that topic in such a way that it gets people's attention. Like for ours, it's like, okay, well, there's books out there on writer's block. There's books out there about procrastination in general. There's books out there about like writer's doubt, like what's it? Oh gosh, it escapes me. But basically, imposter syndrome. That's what I'm looking for. That's pretty big. Why would anybody want to buy my book? And it's kind of those kind of questions. And so we kind of wrapped all that up into, well, what if we gave them 47 mind hacks to overcome that? And yeah, that got people's interest. That got people curious about, oh, what are Steve and Karen talking about? This might help me. So that positioning part is what came to me from reading Chris Fox's book.
Excellent. And for our final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Ooh, okay. That one from Nelson Mandela. That's not helping, is it? He's got a lot of quotes. The one about like bravery is not the absence of fear, but taking action in the face of fear. I love that. I love that because we kind of did that with our book. We hadn't proven that we could do a successful book launch until we did it, and we just kept trying until we succeeded. And I see this a lot with writers, is they put their heart and soul to a book and then it's not received well, and it's very soul crushing. And yeah, we've had that happen in the past. And but you still got to take action. You still got to do it. You can't just kind of like, I'm not going to put my book out there. I don't want to take the risk that it's not going to work. I'm like, well, take action and do what you can to make sure that it does work.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Well, okay. Well, we have two ways. We work with authors and ghostwriting services at bookauthority.com. And my specialty, obviously, with building our summit website is technology and all that kind of digital marketing stuff. So we also run a digital marketing agency called SRQ websitecentral.com. So with that, we help all types of people, but we also still help authors with their launches and their publishing, with the website part of their publishing process.
Well, Steve, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thanks so much, Paul.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.